This is episode 43 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 43 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today I have Mel and Dave Dupuis on the show, and they are real estate investors out of North Bay, Ontario. They've acquired over 100 doors so far in their business. They're full-time real estate investors, and they're getting crazy cash flow. One of the examples they shared on the podcast showed how they were going to net over $20,000 per year in cash flow off of just their most recent deal. And they've got 100 doors in their portfolio already. This was an absolutely incredible podcast. It was very informative. I really enjoyed asking the questions and getting all the answers. It makes this job really fun. I know you're going to enjoy it too. So without further ado, please enjoy episode 43 with Dave and Melanie Dupuis. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I have Dave and Melanie Dupuis on the show. Drove down from where?
North Bay, Ontario.
Yeah, all the way from North Bay. So long drive. You had some ice, some snow along the way.
Well, ironically, this was the first snowfall of this season. So it was this morning for us. Yeah,
School canceled and everything.
So we were a little late here, but yeah, the roads weren't best. But yeah, we made it.
Well, I'm glad to have you on the show because you said that you're over 100 units now, or 100 doors?
Yes, over 100 units, correct.
Okay, and when did you start investing in real estate?
When we first met, I had a couple. I had 2 properties, and Dave had the one. And then we slowly, and that was, about 7 years ago?
Yeah.
And then we slowly built from there. We started buying slowly, and then one year we decided to go really aggressive, and that's when we encountered growth very quickly.
Okay, so what was the first year? Like it was
Yeah, we were at it probably about 3 years or so.
Okay.
We were up to property number, I forget, 5, 6, or 7, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. And the same old, refinancing and that stopped working for us. Okay. And then we just basically learned about leveraging and using other people's money and investors. And that's, as soon as we learned how to leverage, that's when we bought the 12 in 12 months.
Yeah.
So that's kind of was the ticket, right? We exploded.
So you bought 12
properties.
Properties.
Yeah.
Okay, for how many units? Because I'm going to start recording some numbers here.
It totals about 54 units, yeah. So 12 multifamily, always multifamily for us, yeah, and about 54 doors.
Yeah.
So 12 multifamily in 12 months. 54 doors, and that was in what year? 2018?
2017.
2017. Wow, that's quick. And whereabouts? And was that in North Bay?
They were all in North Bay, yes.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about your local market, what it's like there, what kind of opportunities you see, and why you like investing there?
And obviously we're biased. I'm born and raised there. However, I always say this: it's the perfect storm. So North Bay, basically, the cap rates are somewhere between 8 and 11% cap rates. The purchase price are reasonable. It's roughly somewhere around 80 to 100K a door, which is super reasonable for people. The other thing too is it's a relatively high rent amount. Some people will move from down south and they'll say that, I thought I'd move up here and the rents would be lower. No, they're still fairly high rents, and the vacancy, like our vacancy is pretty much 0. And in the city, I think it's maybe 2 or 3%. So low.
Really?
That's what I mean. A perfect storm. Low vacancy, ability. The buy-in number is not that high. The cash flow is there, and yeah, it's kind of a perfect storm. That's why we love it.
Yep.
And we just happen to live there too. So
just happens to be home.
Yeah, exactly.
So 2% vacancy is actually, that's surprising to me. I always thought of North as being sort of a little bit more of a. People tend to be a little bit more reserved about going north. Now, for whatever reason, I don't know. I just that's just my take from being in southwestern Ontario.
Right, and we did find that before, but it seems lately. I mean, it's from about 3 hours north of Toronto, so it's really not that far. There's a lot of, because we have a property management company as well, Dupuis Properties, and we get calls all the time from investors from Toronto or different areas.
BC.
BC, Saskatchewan. Yeah, we have the States, people who want to invest with us here too. So people are coming from across really North America now to North Bay to invest.
Yeah, it's almost like the secret's out, right? That perfect storm has gotten out.
Yeah, the secret's out. Well, and I'm hearing about it a little bit more. And I think in general, I've heard a couple more people that are going up to Sudbury.
Yes.
Which isn't too far from you, or is
it's about an hour west, and we're looking to expand there too. Yeah, it's same thing. About triple the population. but they're kind of on. What was I going to say? Yeah, they're starting to slowly. The prices are starting to climb.
What do you think's driving it? Like if you look at the economics, like we've talked so much on this show about Welland and Niagara Falls and in that area, Toronto, go to Oshawa, Ottawa, but never really, up north. And there's a great opportunity to dig in. I'm big on economic diversity and knowing why people come to the place I invest and why they're going to stay. Can you put it into your own words, how you feel about North Bay?
Yeah, a lot of government jobs. It's kind of like between there and Sudbury is kind of like the Northeast headquarters type thing for different agencies. There's two beautiful lakes, Lake Nipissing and Trout Lake. So that attracts a lot of outdoors people. They want to stay. We're not outdoorsy at all.
No, but there is.
But there's lots
a college, university. So there's quite a bit of people from out of town that are coming into the city.
What are the schools there in North Bay?
Canada College and Nipissing University.
Okay.
And there's I never know how to say this. There's secondary, not markets, but different agencies and different businesses that support the mining sector. And some of them are worldwide and that type of thing. So there's quite a bit of mining. The airport's starting to take off too. There's a lot of because there's the big runway. I think it's 10,000 feet long. Sorry. That was there for the air base. So, NORAD's there, right? So there's a military presence for both Canada and the States there. So, different stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the lifestyle people like there. It's big enough where there's stuff to do, but it's not, and no offense, but some people don't like living down south. So it's kind of that, it's a different lifestyle.
There's no traffic jam. It's, 5 minutes to go to work and, 5 minutes to go to the gym.
But now it takes me 15 minutes to get across town. I'm like, oh, it's terrible.
I always joke that I commute from my kitchen to my front foyer. So my desk is there. I've done many years of driving a lot to London and back from Burlington. It's 3-hour driving in a day, and while that doesn't sound like that much, it adds up, and eventually it's pretty rough. So I love not driving. So I get what you're saying, because anytime you're driving around here, drives they can multiply by double the time. Just because of traffic, just because of all that. And we definitely don't have the infrastructure down here to handle it. I wouldn't mind going up to North Bay for like maybe July and August and September.
Cherry pick the months you want to come up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I already have a hard enough time with our winter here.
Right.
It was funny because we were driving and we came from snow and ice, and I said, I wonder if the landlord's here. Because we're literally with our director of operations and construction manager, we were finalizing our snow removal contracts and we're debating whether to outsource or do it ourselves. And we were on the QEW and we're like, I wonder if the landlord's here having the same discussions. Yeah. Obviously they're not, right? But
not quite. Yeah, that'll come.
Especially not November 1st.
Right, not November 1st, right?
Although our weather's turning too. But by the time this comes out, we'll be well into snow and all that good stuff. But it just seems like somebody turns a switch and all of a sudden you're into weather that's not so great. So what I always like to do, and we will get into some numbers, and I'm sure they're going to be bonkers because you're talking cap rates 9% and above, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which are, wow, I wish I could get those down here. But yeah, so we'll get into that in a second. But what is it that's driving you? Like, what pushed you guys to want to do this more?
Yeah, and I guess there's probably kind of two stories or two different things that we could explain. The first one with real estate was of course getting that financial freedom. Being able to, I wanted to end up someday was my goal. Someday, leave my full-time job and do this full-time. And as soon as I realized the power behind real estate, then I set some goals and we were able to do that. And it essentially was in order for us to be able to spend more time with the kids. So I have 3 kids. It's so nice we were able to see our little guy get on and off the school bus, in the morning to working 9 to 5. There's no way I could see that I would miss out every day on that. So just to have that financial freedom, be there for the kids whenever they want me or need me or appointments and not have to report to anyone. We have an office and we bring our dogs every day to work with us. We don't have to worry about it. Yeah. It's just a different, very flexible lifestyle that we've created for ourselves. Yeah.
What is the full-time activity then for you on a day-to-day basis?
It's funny because we always say it. Before we had jobs, we work, a lot, but we had our weekends off. Now we work all the time. Like we're 24/7. However, we don't necessarily work because we love it, right? So I don't know if that's kind of contradicts itself, but
Work feels like play.
well, exactly.
Yeah,
Love it,
exactly. We love it. And I mean, if we want a day off, we absolutely can because the rental is still making the money. We love it. We want to expand. So before we were more hands-on. Now we've grown to where we're not, we have a property management company. We have a construction team that can do all the renos. Dave and I, we focus on it. We kind of divide and conquer. Dave does a lot of the number crunching and finding cash flowing properties.
I love
and we're
that.
looking across North America. So it's, it's not just necessarily set in our city. We do speaking gigs, we do mentoring. I spend a lot of time with the marketing piece of it. So now we get to really do what we love, and it's to help others create that financial freedom for themselves.
So let's just take a quick step back, and I've got a book here that we'll talk about in a second too, from you guys, but getting into what you're doing with the specific properties. You mentioned construction, so you're not just buying a turnkey property. You mentioned leverage before, and we really do need to dissect this as to how you approach real estate investing, deal to deal basis. What are you looking for? What do you set out to find? What makes the cut? What doesn't?
We turn away so many deals. Obviously, turn away more than we purchase. But our whole strategy, whatever you want to call it, the BRRRR, the flip to self, take an underperforming building, giving it that TLC, giving it that forced appreciation, upping the value. I like calling it a lift, giving it the lift. But yeah, basically doing that is our bread and butter. To buy a turnkey for us, it doesn't fit in our parameters. And when I say that is because we leverage so heavily. We never use our own money for deals. And when I say never, a couple $1,000s here and there, but the down payments, never us. Always investors, always private money, always different, and the bank as well. The bank I consider other people's money, OPM. So because we have that strategy, if we were to buy that turnkey, if I buy the turnkey and Andrew, you lent me X amount of dollars, if I can't get that lift, how am I going to pay you back, right?
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
That's how I do it.
Yeah.
I kind of consider it a fail if I can't get my money back out.
Exactly.
I found down here though, we've had even if I can't get it out on the first attempt, our market's been going up so much that I get most of it out on the first attempt, and then I go back again to the bank and get the rest of it out in a year or two.
That's cool.
But you might not always be able to do that, and I hate relying on that. So I kind of feel like, okay, I got lucky this time.
Yeah.
I need to make sure my deals work today, right? I can get all the money out today. So I could say from experience that would limit a lot of the deals, knowing that you want to get the quote unquote perfect BRRRR. I refer to that a lot, or the perfect flip to yourself, if that's what you call it. How are you able to find that? So considering perfect being all of your money for down payment and renovations is back out.
Correct.
So you're able to find that.
Yeah.
We have, and I mean, a huge part of it is that we are very, very aggressive with our marketing. People in the city know who we are. We've done radio ads, we've done magazine ads, full page covers. We've been billboards with our face on it. So big, Melanie and
very aggressive,
and
right?
they're very aggressive. Yeah. But then the return on investment is huge, because whenever somebody has a property to sell, most of the time they're going to contact us before they go to an agent. So we get to crunch the numbers, see if they fit for us. And again, we look at hundreds of deals. Out of those ones, we'll pick some. But it's really opening up so many more doors for us, and people who may not necessarily be thinking about selling are still contacting us. And if we can make the numbers work, they're like, okay, well, I was planning on selling in 4 or 5 years from now, but I heard about you guys, and if we can make a deal, then it's and again, we're all about win-win partnerships, so we ensure that it's a win-win for the seller and for us as well.
Okay, so say let's just hypothetically walk through. Well, first off, what does the sign say? The billboard.
Oh, tons. We've had a lot.
Yeah.
So we've had
Property management.
We want to buy your property.
Tired of being a landlord. Call us, right? So just stuff to create a buzz. So now people, what's funny is now people, even when they go to sell their place with a realtor, they'll put a clause in excluding us from the realtor, or from their fee.
Exactly. If you guys decide to buy it.
If we change our mind, we decide to buy it.
Like sometimes they'll call me, Katie, have I excluded you from the realtor, fee? So if you change your mind on this deal, and I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. But so it's a good problem to have, right?
Thank you, but your price wasn't low enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so do you come in with a goal? Like, is there a minimum number of units that you would accept?
And we honestly, Andrew, we get that great question. We get that question all the time. We're at the point now, and before, cash flow was cash flow, we were just happy and we wanted a certain amount. Now it's all about what's your time worth. So, like I looked at just last year, I looked at a unit. Is it 18 or 22 units? 11, yeah, 22, and it made about $500 a month. And now I had to deal with 22 doors, right? Like there's lots of different issues, and it wasn't in the best area. I'm like, okay, I can have 22 units and have $500 cash flow, or I can buy a duplex like in our market that gives me $1,000 a month cash flow, and I deal with 2 doors. So what's, that's why our goal now isn't a certain, like we want 1,000 doors in the next 5 years. So we've got to buy another 900 doors. But that being said, I'm not just going to get doors, because what's my time worth, right? To deal with more doors and less cash flow.
So we're essentially very open-minded. Yeah. I mean, we buy duplexes, we buy sixplexes, we have 17plex. So it just depends on the cash flow. So we don't necessarily need a minimum. We won't turn away an awesome deal. There's a triplex we recently purchased, and it was completely underperforming. It was a gut job, but the return on that one is amazing cash flow per month, and just the BRRRR strategy, right? Once we flip it to ourselves and pay out the private lender, we'll still end up with a pretty huge check. So
okay, so not joint ventures, these are private lending.
All the properties that we own them 100% ourselves.
I know we talk about JVs all the time. Let's just emphasize how great that is. You're not splitting it. I mean, of course, you're splitting it between each other. You're all a family. But you're one common team, right? You're a common team with a common goal. You go home together, right?
Yeah,
same
exactly.
Bank account. That's your life JV partner.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're not opposed to JVs.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you've got so many deals at the bank, or you've got so many things going on that you're tied up. So
you guys must be well into your, like most things are commercial financing, even if it's a duplex, triplex.
Sometimes no, though. Well, because our portfolio, they still it is still, yes. So you're right, Andrew. It is commercial financing at the bank. However, they're still giving us, the 80% as opposed to the 75 loan to value. But yeah, we're still in the commercial.
I've heard that's happening. Yeah, I've started to hear that that's
happening. And they kind of look at
happening.
their global portfolio, right?
Yeah.
So that's why from day one, the cash flow analysis is to really ensure you're doing it correctly. Because when they're going to be, once you get to a certain number, things get more difficult, and they're going to look at you as your global portfolio and analyze it. So
yeah, they're gonna of course tack them in. Now, I've never done it this way, so this would be a cool conversation to have, and I hate jumping all over the place, but it kind of is the nature of how I do things. So can you just break it down for our listeners and viewers, because this is kind of foreign to a lot of people. It's something coming from the mortgage world I became aware of, and I'm like, wow, that's revolutionary, that you can take 3 duplexes, which are all residential, they would not fit under commercial lending, and you could package them together and put a commercial mortgage across them. And now all of a sudden it falls under commercial lending where there is no max. And here in Canada, obviously our challenge with residential properties is you get to like 10 and pretty well every bank is saying no. But if you're on the commercial side, they're like, give me more units is better, easier. Exactly. And it's kind of like you take off the training wheels and you move over to commercial multifamily lending. They call multifamily lending commercial or under commercial lending practice, but obviously it's different. So can you tell us how that's worked for you? Or do you have a blanket of over several properties, or do you have any residential properties that are in commercial lending right now?
Yes, yeah, like we don't have any blankets per se, over different mortgages. What was I going to say? They basically just we're on the commercial side now because of the amount of buildings, the amount of units, and the amount of I shouldn't say exposure, but the you know what I mean, the amount, the loan, the debt we have.
Yeah. So the residential side is saying no, you need to work with commercial.
Correct.
Now.
Yes.
So when you go into commercial, they take a look at your overall portfolio. And then, so if you want to add a duplex to that, they say, sure, we can add a mortgage to that. And then it's going to factor in with the overall performance of everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But they'll still give us up to 80, if it's 4 or less, they'll still give us the 80% loan to value.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's like residential and commercial.
Yeah.
So we're on the commercial side for
Yeah.
every single deal we do because of the size of the portfolio. Yeah. However, they still respect the 4 and under, and anything 5 or over is
So they
75.
very much work with us, which is
Okay.
And that's not every
Yeah.
bank. That's credit unions, different things like that.
What banks have you found will go to that 80% for you?
Is the credit unions. The
credit
banks.
unions.
Yeah.
The banks now, like we were, I don't want to throw any bank under the bus, and it's not about that. It's just they after we had 10, they kind of just sorry, they kind of dried up on us.
Typical, right? The 10, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I'm familiar with this too. Yes, the credit unions are a little bit unique. It's not the true kind of commercial lending that I was describing before, but it's kind of like a little bit of a hybrid. They kind of practice some common sense residential lending,
Yes.
but they also will look at it from a commercial standpoint in terms of we're looking more at the asset and what it generates than you yourself.
And the global portfolio. Yeah. So what I like is it's a little bit more personalized. Like they'll look at, again, they'll look at the asset, like you said, Andrew. They'll look at us. They'll look at what the global portfolio can support. Like the gut jobs we buy, there's zero income. So on day one, it's just a negative, right?
So are they financing that when it's a negative? Yeah. Also something that's difficult to get a bank to do, right?
But again, and that's where the global portfolio. So if we wouldn't have really highly cash flowing properties, there's no way they'd be saying yes to the ones that have zero money coming in.
So the debt coverage ratio overall still supports, the 1.2 that they're looking for or higher.
1.2. Okay.
Yeah. So that's, as long as we can meet that on the globals, then they're happy and they let us do what we want.
Yeah. So just to clarify some of this for people who aren't familiar with it. So with commercial lending, it's all about the asset. It's all about the property, and they're looking for your operating income to be at least 1.2 times whatever your mortgage payment is. And some of them 1.25, some of them less than that, but there's kind of a spread. They're all
on average, yeah.
Yeah, they're all in that 1.2 range. And generally the idea is there's no cap as long as you continue to do that.
Yeah.
So that's been your experience?
Pretty much, yeah. Our discussion letters are, from the banks are, as long as you maintain a 1.2 overall, they're happy.
We'll continue saying yes.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
But then that puts the onus on you, the person managing those properties or managing the assets, even if you're not the property manager, to make sure they continue to perform.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely.
And they do that annual review. What happens if you don't pass that annual review?
I don't want to find out.
Yeah.
I want to stay above
We're ensuring to do our due diligence.
Okay, so yeah, obviously you guys don't know, and that's a great thing. You haven't had to go there, and
yeah. And I think I asked one time, and I think they said, I said, what happens if that goes below? I said, I don't intend on it. But I think it was, obviously they're not just going to say, call the mortgages back, and there's going to be, why, and there's always some gray area, right?
yeah, they just want to get involved and understand what's going on, probably. Makes sense. Why don't we jump into one of the deals you've done recently? You said there was a triplex. Is that, or do you have another one you'd like to share?
One we just closed 2 weeks ago. This one's very exciting, actually. Well, our office is in it.
By all means, no, whatever you want to share.
Yeah, no, because this one's exciting. The triplex is still a gut job. We're still working on it. So it hasn't come to fruition yet. This one either, because obviously we just bought it 2 weeks ago. But basically, it's a fiveplex. They're side by side, so we had to buy both. Fiveplex. So it's, and again, everyone always gets, it's residential commercial, right? Because it's 5 units or over. Yeah.
Oh, so it's not mixed use. You said it's commercial as well, right?
Yes, but I mean, it's residential commercial, because when they look at 5 and over, then it becomes,
commercial
it's still
lending,
res, but
yeah.
Commercial.
Yeah, that's a commercial multi-residential. So it's not that it has retail space, but once this is what we're talking about.
There's
before.
so many different.
They need a new term.
Yeah, for some reason they put multi-residential under commercial, which it's a little confusing. But yeah, multi-residential. Okay.
So that one's a fiveplex. We picked it up for $250. That one has an okay cash flow. And this was owner finance. So this was 100%. The seller held the first mortgage.
Okay.
And again, because it's private, usually the bank would have only given me 75 loan to value because it's commercial, but he held 80, right? Because when it's private, you can do, you can be creative. And then we had a investor with her RSPs hold the other 20. So literally we got into that building for $0.
Okay.
And same with the office building. The office building is a triplex. So the main floor is our office. So it's actual commercial. And then upstairs is 2 residential units for another $250. And again, the seller held 80% loan to value, and the RSP lady held 20%. So with our spreadsheets and our analysis, once we get the rents to where they should be market value, we'll be able to repay them back with the refinance. And I think we'll be left with somewhere between 120 and 150 from the refinance.
Like you'll pull out 150. Now that's a game that you're gonna win if you keep doing that. You just keep pulling out more and more. So you're 100% financed effectively on the way in. So
Yes.
You're able to pull together. Somebody has some RSPs, or for our American friends, that's roughly equivalent to your 401k. Here in Canada, we can self-direct those into a mortgage. So you found somebody, they self-directed it to give you a mortgage.
Exactly.
And so that lets you guys do your thing. Are you raising the renovation funds, or do you have money that you've pulled out elsewhere that you can use for that?
That's going to be in our general kind of day-to-day cash flow because, and this building in particular is different from that triplex. That's a gut job, so we had to
take that into consideration.
Yeah, where this one it's kind of just TLC. So as tenants move out, countertops, a little bit of flooring, paint, like nothing earth-shattering, no gut jobs, just that kind of TLC. So it's nothing. Couple $1,000 per unit, So
okay,
and it's as people move out, so it's not one huge reno.
Right.
So it's
and you think you can get that much of a lift even though you're just doing little lipstick renos?
It's because the rents are so underperforming.
So you're just gonna try and turn them over, get them out.
And I'm being super conservative with the rents and with the cap rates because, like I told you, our cap rates are anywhere. When the appraisers look at it, I think they give us 8%. So I underwrote the deal at 7%, just to be extra cautious. So as long as I can get all the rents up in a year, and I know that might not happen, but as long as I get 3 out of the 5, then we'll be able to get that big lift.
So then you'll go back in a year and you'll do that.
But even if we end up a little bit lower, so let's say I don't get the 150, I get 100. I'm still happy, right?
We paid back everyone, plus we made 100 in a couple
you're borrowing
years.
money. It's not even yours.
It's a built-in cushion, right? Even if I end up with 50K after, I'm still happy.
And will it still cash flow?
Yes, it still cash flows.
And that's part of the cash flow analysis that we do. So we always kind of look at two portions when we purchase property. We look at what the cash flow is now. We look at what is going to cash flow with what we know, because we know, of course, the market very well. And that's how we do our analysis. And paying by, because if
I wouldn't buy it if it didn't cash flow after the refi.
And that's the thing. We often have people coming to us now saying, hey, I want to invest 50 or 200 or 500K with you guys. And at times it's sorry, I can't take your money now because right now I don't have that building where I know 100% that I can exit out and pay you back. And that's our strategy. Like out of the 12 that we purchased, the 12 properties we purchased in less than 12 months, that was in 2017. So that's only 2 years ago. Yeah. They were all 5-year term. Mm-hmm. By the end of the year, we're going to have already repaid 11 and likely 12 before the end of the year. So that's 3 years early that we'll repay. So
so you had longer terms to borrow and then you're repaying.
5-year term for all of them, for the second mortgage or private loan or
private loans. Yeah, so you're just people, it's going so well that you're able to pay them back soon.
And which think about how happy they're going to be, right? 3 years early.
And that creates two things. So number one, our monthly cash flow increases. So let's say lender 1, I was paying him $150. Lender 2, I was paying him $600. Lender 3, $300. So my monthly cash flow increased significantly. Yeah. And then I have all these lenders saying, you paid me back 3 years early. I wasn't expecting that. I made money. I trust you. Here's the 100 or 200K. Let's do it again. Exactly. So once you have that, you're able to continue with that.
It's funny you mentioned that because I've had the exact same issue. I had a friend of mine who's he's very interested. He's invested with me before. He calls me up. He's like, well, I'm selling a house. I might have like 500K to put to work. I'm like, wow, that sounds awesome.
Let's chat.
And
let me buy you dinner.
that is part of my business, taking that money and putting it to work. It's just, you have to have the deal that makes sense, right? Like, absolutely. I don't take that lightly, and I think you guys do either. The deal needs to make sense, and sounds like you're in a great market to find deals that make sense. Yeah. And sometimes you just got to look harder, right? I think where we are down here in Hamilton, Burlington, you just got to look a bit harder because the cap rates aren't 9-8%. They're 4 3 right. Depends.
And you guys, it's a different play, right? It's the appreciation play as opposed to the
cash play.
And people make a lot of money with that, and good for them. It's out of my comfort zone. We were talking about this on the way up. I like to control most aspects of the deal, right? And hoping on that market appreciation. That's something that no one can control. And
it's true. They can't.
And sorry, Andrew, one of the things that one of our pillars was talking to people, because obviously we're not the first people to do this, right? It's not, and around our area and different places, I think we talked to 2 or 3, they had gone bankrupt from doing this. And we wanted to learn, okay, if everything was going so great, what happened, right? Like what?
So that was their biggest fear, to kind of rewind a bit, was like, okay, I don't want to borrow somebody's money and not be able to pay back. And I was very, very fearful and skeptical of it at first, because that's something I'd want to make sure that I knew 100% confidently how to do it. So that's why we met with some, sorry, I kind of cut you off there, but we met with some those who were not successful. And essentially it all came down to their exit strategy. They didn't have it figure it out properly. So that's, we took all that information and we created some strategies and around how to do it for ourselves.
They were banking on things they couldn't control. Like they were hoping that the market would continue to increase. Yep. They were hoping rates wouldn't go up. Like all stuff that, Mel, Dave, and Andrew can't control, right? Yeah. So
yeah, and that's why I've always been adamant that everything has to cash flow. And if something doesn't cash flow, that's a mistake. I would never accept a negative cash flow deal. People ask me all the time, they'll fight me for it. They'll be like, oh, come on, Andrew, what do you think? I want to invest in Toronto. I see this building. I think it can make a lot. I'm like, well, you always have to be thinking worst case scenario as a plan, and you hope for the best, but you have to plan for the worst too. And if you're sitting with a property, say the market does what it did in the early 90s in Toronto and went down, and it took almost 20 years to fully recover. And people don't really think about that. But if you buy at the absolute peak and you don't know you're in the peak until after you go to the trough, if you buy at the peak and it does have to correct, you could be sitting in that property for 10, 15 years just to recoup. And if you're cash negative on top of that, and the bottom falls out of the real estate market, real estate rental prices are probably going to go down. So your cash negative is going to go even more negative. And I'm not trying to be all doomsday here, but it is a possibility.
Absolutely.
And most people are just, it's like you're at the casino and you keep winning. So you keep saying, well, I can't lose. It doesn't mean you can't lose. So it's better to invest with fundamentals. And that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Exactly.
Cash flow is about investing with fundamentals. It doesn't matter how much money you make or any of that. If you don't have cash flow, eventually there's going to come that day where that property maybe is a cash call and it's a burden to you. And then all of a sudden you have a negative mental state when we talk about real estate investing. And that's the worst. You don't want to have that. You want to be able to say, hey, that real estate pays me. It's made me wealthy. And
agreed.
Right. Yes.
Granted, my wife has a condo she bought in Toronto, and she bought around $510,000 in 2015. And well, it was a good time to buy because now that's worth $1 million, and
that's awesome.
With no renovations, nothing, just just there you go. And that just went up in value. So, you can definitely benefit. Hey, good for her.
Is she here? I need to talk to her because we need to do some business here.
She's pretty keen. She actually just did. So she leveraged that condo to do a joint venture with her mom. They bought a 7-unit building here in Burlington, and they're in the process of refinancing that now. It looks like they've created over $1 million in equity in the building. So the numbers here are pretty ridiculous. Yeah. So I'm gonna have her on the show. We're figuring out when she's gonna come on and tell this story. But yeah, she's definitely done some good deals. Why don't we get into some of the details of that deal? So what do you figure your cash flow would be? Say, I know you're going to own or occupy the 1 unit, but just say hypothetically you rented it out. What do you figure your cash flow? Well, actually, even with you owner occupying, you're going to cash flow, right?
Correct.
So you're basically living there for free or using it for free.
Yeah.
So what's your cash flow going to be?
As of right now, as today, we're making about, and it's not sexy, it's about $2,000 a year between both buildings. Okay. After I get my lift and refinance it, we're going to make about $20,000 or $24,000 between the both of them. $24,000
in cash flow. So we're going to use that number. So even with you having your own space, which is basically complimentary since you've got the cash flow here.
It's fairly spacious.
Yeah, we're going to grow into it. It's too much space right now,
but
this sounds good. You're almost making me want to move up there.
But you know what the cool part is, though, Andrew? Is again, after we refinance, after we get the lift, and this is what we tell our mentorees, is look at this deal. So initially, not too sexy, $2,000 a year for 2 buildings. But after we've paid back the investors, basically gotten a 0 down deal, right? And then we get a first mortgage from the bank, a new first mortgage. We're going to have assets that we put 0 down that are worth, one's going to be 500, one's going to be about 325. So $825,000 worth of assets.
That's what it will be worth?
The 2 of them together, okay. Yeah.
What did you buy for?
500.
So you bought for 500 all in. And then your renovations are just going to be nominal.
A couple thousand a unit.
And you're going to cash flow the whole time. So it'll almost come out of cash flow. So maybe we'll just say $5,000 for transactions and this and that until you can refinance it all.
Yeah.
Actually, legals are pretty expensive with commercial. We'll say 10,000. We cover all that stuff. Okay. So you're in for about 510 at the end of your work when you're turning over the units that you want to turn over. You figure it'll take you a year?
Yeah.
Okay, so your purchase and improvement is 510. Then you're figuring your valuation is 825.
825.
825. So they're going to give you what, 75%?
That one, correct. And just to clear, those are two buildings that we bought side by side. I mean, I'm saying it as one because I had to buy it all together.
Did you buy them in different legal names?
Otherwise, they'd amalgamate, right?
But the credit union that you're working with doesn't mind that. They'll still, even though they're in different names, they'll still work with it?
Correct.
Okay. Is the company that you put the second property in more of just like, how do I put this? Like it's just there for namesake? Like you still operate out of one of the two companies?
Well, we're at about 4 corps now because we just asset protection and setting things up. Whenever one asset corp or whenever one holdco gets too much, or we create another one.
But when you go into your credit union, they look at all the corps and they amalgamate it together as if it's okay.
It's all Dave and Mel in the end, right? Like it's again the global.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know how corporations work.
Interesting. Yeah, I have a few corporations myself, and I don't like having many of them. Like, I prefer less because it's less complication.
It is.
And from a bookkeeping standpoint, it doesn't help things. So.
No, but from protection
And just taxes and our financial controller takes care of it all. So otherwise, we'd be bogged down. With that.
Okay, so loan to value 75%. That gives you $618,050 on this deal. So you're taking out money, as you've said. So if all goes as planned, you're going to have a net cash out of the 618 minus the 510. Does that sound familiar?
Yep. So what am I at? 118 there? 110?
Yeah, around 110. So 108,750. And so we can't do a return on investment because you have no investment in this case. You have cash.
It's infinite.
Yeah, it's infinite.
That's what I love.
Infinite. It's less impactful when I make a YouTube teaser or an Instagram teaser like infinite return. What does that even mean? They'd prefer I say like 50 or 60%, but it's so much better than that. It's almost hard to believe, right?
So we went in with plus zero down. It cash flows. We're making money.
The assets worth more.
We have a nice big office. How could we not?
And that's only our refinance. There's still equity in the building, so the banks love it because there's still 25% sitting there. So
you've created it.
Just helps our ratios. It's just.
This is why the BRRRR model, the flip to yourself model is so incredibly important. It's such an important tool in a real estate investor's portfolio. Okay, so mortgage pay down. Let's just do a calculation. Well, for the record, are you on a 25-year amortization on that?
Yes.
So you'll be 24. So it's going to be a little bit more aggressive. We'll say it's a 4% per year pay down. I always just ballpark this.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so on a 618, we'll multiply 4%. So that's about 24,750 a pay down in the first year.
Awesome.
And again, that might not be exact. And then appreciation is the one that's going to be a little bit different because your market's obviously different from ours. I usually do 3 just to be conservative, but what would you say is a conservative?
Like after I get that lift, it's pretty much just gonna 1 to 2%. A little bit, like it's
more inflation, right? So if inflation's 2%, then you're going to kind of see that over the long run unless you go in and actively push. But what I could say is if you're seeing rents pushing up beyond inflation, which in this area they certainly are, then you're going to start to see the value creep up naturally, right? Because with commercial multi-res, if you increase income, you increase value.
That's the thing.
Right, yeah.
The income, they praise it on income approach, right? I love this deal and the other thing too, Andrew, is one corporation that occupies the office is the property management corporation paying our other corporation. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like so we're really not paying any rent.
So you are going to pay rent. Your corporation is going to pay rent.
Yeah,
okay,
for
I got
tax,
you.
One for so
you have to, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So we're paying rent. So we're literally rent free because we're paying Peter to pay Paul type thing. They're the same pot.
Yeah.
And we paid zero down to get it. The asset's worth more. We cash flow every month. To me, it's a no brainer. It's an all day, every day, right? And that's what we're trying to teach our mentorees is, look at this model. Who wouldn't do this? So, and this one's different because we do have our office. However, I just wanted to show, kind of how we structure our deals. So
to clarify, when we talk about that $24,000 in cash flow, that does have a rent figure built in for you at fair market rent.
Correct.
Yes.
Which
a bit lower actually.
Okay.
I'm giving myself
we're
a break.
very much like you. We're conservative, right? You always want to.
Fair enough.
Worst case scenario. Yeah.
So this building, I mean, in addition to immediately creating. Well, you're 825 to 618 on the mortgage. You're over $200,000 in equity created, and over the and how many work hours are going into that?
Well, you know what, and because we have employees and we have people helping us and working with or for us, yes, we're paying salary and all that, but it's just and I hate saying that we're leveraging their time, but it's because it's not us doing it. You know what I mean? It's one of those we are kind of leveraging. The efforts of others who are getting paid for it, but that's what I like looking at it. How many hours do we really put into it? Mel and Dave, You know, we analyzed the deal, we negotiated with the seller.
Yeah.
A couple hours here and there, you know, maybe 10 hours.
Yeah, so you got 10 hours into creating $200,000. So for effect, $200,000, 10 hours. So what does that put you at? $20,000 an hour?
Jeez, I'll take that.
Yeah, I'll take that.
See, this is why, you know, being a real estate investor and really a business person, an entrepreneur, and thinking about things in terms of what is my time worth? What's my highest and best use as a person in terms of what I can generate and the value I can bring. So for you guys, you're bringing a ton of value to people when you buy the property from them. They want to get rid of it. You create an easy solution. You're creating a ton of value for your lenders because you're giving them a simple return that they can bank on, so to speak. And then of course value for your tenants and value for yourselves. So it's several wins.
And that's the thing, you can't do it if somebody is losing. We're not in it, right? Because again, it's you have to. It has always has to be a win-win. So
and we're big on that. That's like our foundation. You know,
yeah, that's how we do business. It has to be win-win. If it's not a win-win,
if you get a steal of a deal where you grinded it out way too hard,
and you feel like, I suckered him. Well,
that person had to lose, right?
Yeah,
we like the win-win.
It's okay to ask for the price that you want, but I mean, you know, you got to be, I really do feel like you got to be like true to your heart when you do.
And you know what, and price is one part of it, but there's so many other things that goes into a deal, right? Is that do they want to close this year? Do they want to close next year for capital gains purposes, right? So there's so many different ways that we can create a win-win partnership with people by simply asking them questions. And at the end of the day, what do you really need?
And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't. Like, 'cause sometimes it doesn't, right? But, and like you were just saying, I love your example, Andrew. So how did this work out? So we got a cash flowing asset, 0 down. The seller sold his building. It had been on for 8-10 months. So the seller was able to sell their asset.
And he's happy. Like, he saw us
We saw him a couple of years. Hey, I love you guys.
giving us big hugs. And
Yeah, so it's a win-win.
Win-win-win.
Plus, he's going to make money on his holding the mortgage, right? He's going to make points. So he's still going to get a check every month. It's going to help him with his capital gains, right? That he didn't get all the money at once. He can spread the love there. The lady with the RSPs, she's happy. She's making good points on her money. And then the bank's going to be happy because we're going to bring it to them eventually, and they're going to have a secure partner that has that did their math and has a strategy. So
the new tenants that come in with the adjusted new rate, they're going to have a cleaner, nicer looking property, well maintained, because we pride ourselves as that as well. So
yeah, we want to be good landlords. Yeah, so it's like you said, it's win-win for everyone. That's what we love, and we're making money at the same time.
You wouldn't be this far along if you didn't, you know, because if you just kind of look out for number one and you don't ever consider the others, reputation spreads, right? Like,
exactly.
You can only do that so long, right?
Yeah.
You know, some people are hard negotiators, and you know that might work once, but then when that person never wants to deal with you again, you didn't win anything.
That's how we started at first. We wanted the best deal possible.
Made a lot of mistakes,
and then quickly realized that maybe that's not the best strategy always, right?
I used to do that with my tradespeople, and I was very, very hard on them. Like, you know, I guess I say that for me. Like, that's not really my personality. I'm always wanting to be fair to people, but I would make a big stink about it. They would raise the price on me. I'm like, no, like that's not all right. We didn't agree on that. But what I've really started to do more is be objective about it, and you know. You always treat it like, how would a reasonable person, you know, handle this? And in any negotiation, right, you be fair to that other person, knowing that it's not just about winning today, it's about winning long term with that person.
100%.
And I'll pay certain trades more because they're better and they make my life easier.
Exactly. And when you call the answer, right?
Oh yeah.
So that to me is more important than saving $20, here and there.
And that's the thing we talked about. You know, how many hours did we spend on this deal? Not many, because we use other people to help us with that. But it has to be a win-win for them as well, right? And you have to be okay with letting go, which is not always easy. We used to do everything ourselves, right? I used to do all the viewings. I used to do the viewings. They would do the screening tenants over the phone and all that. And then we realized, okay, wait a second. If we want to continue to grow, we're at full capacity. So we need to let go of some things to continue to do what we really love and help us grow. So we have a team. We have a VA from Mexico. We have two VAs from Mexico.
Okay, so they live in Mexico, and
who can do a lot of things via distance.
They're awesome.
And they're awesome. They're dedicated. They're hard workers. So again, it's just setting up a good team to help you really grow and set up so you can spend your time doing what you want.
Okay, so you'd mentioned that you have a financial controller.
Yes.
This is the one thing that I had like a stranglehold on is no one touches my money.
Right.
Because
Fair enough.
that's where things can get ugly if there's too much lack of control.
I agree.
Yeah. So how do you mitigate that risk?
So basically, she can do, how do I say it? Not that she can do everything and anything. However, I'm still the one who sends the transfer. I'm still the one for now that accepts. Okay. So I still somewhat.
So that's what I do too.
Yeah. It'll be, hey, Dave, ensure to pay this. Okay. And I write the check. So that's kind of my checks and balances, how come I'm making this check out to your name? It's.
Oh, so she sets up the payment, you just initiate it.
Yes.
Right.
And
so we're still hanging on to that little bit of control.
Well, that's the part that I've been hanging on to. So you got your bookkeeping's taken care of. She can see, obviously keep things on track that way. And then you're just the one that sends out the money or cashes it.
And then she can do all the calculations, right? She can calculate the cash flow analysis for each property and do invoices and all that. So.
Yeah, that tricky one, the financial controller, that takes a level of trust and some control mechanisms that are pretty important in my opinion. Like I don't want to let anyone log in. I don't want to give anyone any passwords to log into anything.
Like that Seinfeld episode, where George won't give his PIN and there's an emergency.
Oh yeah,
he just won't give his PIN.
I haven't seen that one, but yeah, that's roughly how I feel.
And you know what, it really is. I think it gets to that point where it's okay. Do I take a leap of faith, and then, like anything else, how do I reduce the risk of something happening? So really doing your research and
controls, right?
Yeah.
Like what you can do. I know there's some software. Like I use something called ACH, automatic deposit. So it's like a wire transfer system. So I pay all my payroll is through that, and then I also collect through automatic withdrawal. So there's not a lot of e-transfers and things like that to be sent. But my system that I use has a key fob that releases, and it has a number that cycles every 5 seconds. Plus my password is needed in order to release money. So that's a good control. I could have somebody log in, set up the payment. I could just literally pop in and hit send if I agree with it, right? So there are ways to cut the time down.
Exactly.
Right.
But I mean, one day there will be a better system than even that, and I'll figure it out. Yeah. Got to talk to some people who have done it. Right, yeah. rather than me invent it, I'll go to a real estate meetup and ask somebody else how they did it. Ask you guys when you figure that one out. Okay, so what are your daily activities? You'd mentioned, I had that listed down, but you're seeing properties, evaluating properties.
Yeah.
Posting marketing ads.
We have mentoring, which is a very big piece of what we do as well. So we mentor people to get started, whether they have 1 property or 3 or just want to get started. So we do a lot of that, and we speak at events. Like tomorrow, we're going to an event speaking at real estate vet. So
right here in Burlington,
right here,
the
so
right club.
And with the mentoring, it's cool. Is it's not just people, and I was surprised actually. I guess I was closed-minded to it. No, I shouldn't say closed-minded, but I never thought of it. It's not even just people that want to buy buildings. I've noticed a few people. It's also been they have money, they want to be private lenders, but they want to understand the cycle of real estate. They want to understand what's DCR, what's debt cover ratio, what's NOI, they want to get to know. Like if they were to buy the deal themselves. So they're learning as if they were going to be that person. However, they're going to be the private lender. But now they have the full aspect.
They just want to fully understand, I guess, maybe that control piece, right? They want to know.
That's totally awesome. You're very well equipping yourself with being a sophisticated investor.
So when they lend to you, part of your agreement is that they can ask you questions or you'll bring them along for the ride?
That's not even necessarily people that are investing with us. It's just people taking the program, our mentoring program, to educate themselves. And then, of course, some relationships are being built through that as well. When
did that start? When did the mentoring program start?
It started off, and I don't know if you know this, Andrew, or not, but when we were actually in 2018, that's kind of the second piece that I mentioned. Our why earlier was, number 1 was my kids, was for that financial freedom, why we do real estate. Number 2, we were on our way to a real estate investing conference in 2018, and we were in a horrific vehicle accident. We were, going about it. We were passengers in back seat, but we got hit by a transport driver hit a car who hit us. We rolled across the highway 5-6 times, and we almost died. We barely made it alive. Everybody can't believe that we actually survived the accident. Thank goodness for a very large Suburban, and that kind of changed our whole mindset about everything, that we aren't not doing enough. We have these strategies. We were able to create financial freedom for ourselves, and we're keeping it for ourselves. Like, why not help other people? So that's when it started. So then we started doing, one-on-one mentoring, or we wrote our book actually. So we wrote the book.
Yeah, I'll put a picture of that up on the screen for anybody who wants to take a look, and I'll put the details up on our show
awesome.
notes.
And that one, what do I want to say? And this isn't boasting. It hit Amazon in the first week. What is it called?
Amazon bestseller. This first week.
Which again, we're not authors,
In which
right?
category?
It made 3 different categories: investment, real estate, and dreams. So 3 different categories.
Well, good for you guys.
Which again, we're not authors, right?
Yeah.
But we just decided, hey, we're not doing enough. So just to say, anyone can do anything.
Well, that's fantastic, and then it's a great business card as well.
Well,
Exactly, yeah.
and
Absolutely.
it's basically because when I first started out, I was very, very scared. I created barriers.
Yeah.
I was a person of scared of everything, just didn't know how to do it. So the way we wrote the book, well, for me anyway, was I wanted that book to be, Dave from that when you started. Here's a book to stop making excuses and go out there and do it.
You put a no BS guide to creating wealth and freedom, so that's good. No BS there.
Well,
Exactly,
and that's the
yeah.
thing. It's not everything you're absolutely ever going to need, but it's it's a brief. Originally it was like 300 pages, and then I said I wouldn't read a 300-page real estate book. I like to listen, so we made it 88.
Yeah, 88.
So that someone could pick it up, read it. Just a quick, very easy, light read.
Just enough to get you started, get you thinking, get you moving.
Get you in a mindset.
And then, people started reaching out to us more and more saying, hey, I want mentorship. Can you help us? We want to use other people's money. We're not sure how. So we started doing that shortly after. And then we became so busy with that we thought, okay, well, now we need to think of a different way to do it, because otherwise we
reach more people.
Right, to reach more people, to help more people. So now we're doing, we have different, we have online courses, there's group mentoring, so that there's different ways that we're able to help, which is actually, I thought at first I didn't want to do group mentoring because I thought, well, I prefer the one-on-one. And it's fascinating how much more valuable the group setting is, because you have a group of very vested investors, who invested in themselves and their growth, and the networking and the network that happens within that, right? Your network is your
Teach
network.
each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's huge. So I think that I kind of exercise those pieces with the podcast and the meetup too, is, hopefully connect people in the meetup. I'd like to get them more engaged on the Facebook group, but we have that. The podcast is sort of the group learning, and then when they come in, they can obviously talk to each other and grow that way.
Yeah,
That's
that's
awesome.
fantastic. And they should absolutely go.
Yeah, well, they get
go
to
out there.
hear your story, right? They don't have to have you in person. They can hear your story and hear how you think, and hopefully that always made sense to me. That's why I wanted to start this, because you just absorb all the wealth of knowledge of the people who come in.
Absolutely.
and
That's great.
make it your own, right? You mentioned negotiating off-market deals and also vendor take-back mortgages, which are super useful. What do how did you hone those skills? What did you find? What do you find works? What doesn't work? Can you give me like a recent experience of how that worked?
Yeah, and just generally for VTBs, I think the first time is always, the first few probably are always the more difficult, right? So you have to sell yourself to the person. Why should they trust you? So you need to be informed. You need to know all the terms. You need to know the benefits for the seller. Why should they hold a VTB on your purchase?
Like Mel said, is what's in it for them, and again, spreading the love with the taxes, the capital gains.
That's a great selling point right there.
Absolutely, but you need to know how to explain it, because a lot of them will say, well, what is that? I heard about it. And if you can't articulate it,
So you got to tell them, okay, you need to work with an accountant, but basically if you're not
exactly,
taking the
that
money
disclosure.
out, if you're not taking the money out, here's how it's been explained to us. Seek clarification from your accountant, but this could be really beneficial.
Exactly.
yeah.
So they love that. Yeah, the capital gains.
And they need to know your exit strategy as well.
Right. So if you can't explain that,
Yeah.
they're going to go away thinking, well, I don't feel confident investing with them, right?
Well, and that's one of those things that's going to become very easy when your face is on a billboard saying I buy houses.
But that accountability piece.
Yeah.
Right.
Clearly they've figured it out.
And like Mel had said before too, it's listen to what they need. If they're worried about capital gains, like now that we're close to end of the year, that type of thing, or start of the year, people want to let it not dip over. What's the word I'm looking for?
They want to carry some of
Yeah,
it,
there you go.
of it all, right? They don't want to realize all the capital gain this year, so you can help them to spread it out, because maybe they're if they're retired, for instance, they might have no income next year, or maybe they have the option to take it or not. So you could allow them to spread their gain out, and you could save them like $100,000. I mean, depending on the deal.
And it's working with them. Like we have someone who's going to be selling us his building, but we, after speaking with them for capital gains, because he already sold one, we're like, okay, well, it's easy. Easy solution. Let's write a deal and let's close beginning of January 2020. So that way your capital gains for this year, can go to next year. And it's just figuring out what they need, working with them and being flexible.
So do you start on the phone, or you're in person, or a little combination of both?
A little bit of both. I like to see the numbers initially. I don't want to waste anyone's time.
Before you go out, you want to know that there's a chance the numbers could work?
Absolutely. Yeah, we never.
That's how I work
ever,
too.
Yeah.
Don't waste your time.
No.
Get an idea of their ballpark, and if they're way out to lunch, then do you kind of coach them down, or do you let it die?
If the numbers are way off, then I just let it die.
And we'll explain why we're not interested. And sometimes we won't hear from them again, and sometimes they'll
come around.
They'll come around, yeah. And sometimes they come around a year later. So they'll post it on MLS. It won't sell, and then they'll come back and they'll be like, okay, here's my new price. You're interested? So
your brand is well established up there. People know who you are.
Yes.
They know they call you back. They're not going to forget. They just look for your billboard. Okay, there's the number.
Yeah, they can't miss us. We're all over. We have big
Flyers
deco
too.
trucks.
you know what? We've tried flyers, and flyers did not work. That's the only thing
Well,
that
not
we
for
found.
multi-res, probably.
But social media is free, guys. So if you're not on social media, make sure you are. That's free. I mean, we went obviously very, very aggressive. Deco your vehicles. Just be everywhere. That omnipresence.
Yeah.
That's a great message, and I think people need to take that to heart. If you're not finding deals, you're probably not doing enough to create a brand for yourself.
And don't let them forget you. And go to meetups. And when we go to meetups or landlord association meetings, stand out, right? Do you have we always go there with our golf shirts where it says the name of our company. And
Oh, there you go. Dave has his on. I don't, but
Awesome.
but right, be branded so people
continuously know who you are. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know how I haven't asked you this yet, but what did you do for work before you both became self-employed, working in as real estate investors full time?
So I worked at our local college. So I had a couple of different roles. I did marketing. Actually, I was a recruiter to start, and then program development is what I was doing. Yeah.
And when did you transition?
Honestly, it was that accident moment. I had a bad concussion for about a couple months at least. And I was thinking about going back to work, and I would physically feel ill about going back. Just that gut feeling. What I kept thinking is I can't even drive there, thinking that I'm potentially putting my life at risk again. I'm okay to drive my kids somewhere, because it's for them, or I'm okay to go see a rental because we love doing that, or go on a trip. But I didn't want to spend any of more minutes doing something I didn't love. So that's when I decided to leave, and again, thank goodness for real estate. Thank goodness we had purchased already, because when that moment happened where, it was no longer for me, I was able to. I had the freedom to leave.
I love the freedom that real estate can create for people, and especially where you guys are, you're in a great market to do that, right? Because you can create that cash flow that you need to replace the income.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so. If people wanted to reach out to you, I know we're flowing through an hour here. So if people wanted to reach out to you and connect with you and learn more about what you do, how would you like them to do that?
Well, we're everywhere. So reach out. We're big on Instagram. So our username is Investor Mel Dave. Yeah. Same with Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, the new one I just got recently. My daughter's like, Mom, you have to be on there. So Investor Mel and Dave is how people can find us from LinkedIn as well, Twitter.
Okay, so you're everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
And you're utilizing your team to help you with these things, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
I need more of those people.
You need some virtual assistants.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe you guys can make some recommendations to me. We don't need to go through that on here, but this is why I love making these connections, because we can hopefully help each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
And kind of go from there. Okay, so a little bit about you guys and what you like to do outside of all this. So, do you have a hobby that you like to do when you're not focused on real estate and property management?
I teach fitness classes. I like doing that. We just a lot of time with the kids. Really,
Yeah.
we're kind of homebodies.
Yeah, and we have a pool in the summer, so we literally live in the pool with the two dogs, and just we like to go on holidays, a lot, Blue Jays games and things like that, and get away in the winter. So the kids sports, but they're kind of homebodies too.
Yeah.
They play
It's like
hockey
spending-
or
I'm trying to push our 4-year-old little guy into hockey, and he's, Dad, I don't want to do it. Okay, well,
Yeah.
not going to play. Like, I can't force you.
The girls are in gymnastics and theater and that swim and that kind of stuff. But so busy just with, everyday life at home, but family life and yeah, swimming in backyard is kind of where we spend our summers. Just
You must have a heated pool up there to extend your
Absolutely.
season a little
Yeah,
bit.
so we extend it. Yeah, we start really early and we close
started
it
early, close late. Yeah.
just before there's snow.
I've got a hot tub, so I actually kind of look forward to the cold weather sometimes. It's that much
Nice.
more enjoyable when you got it. Do you have like a dream place that you guys want to travel, or a place that you've already been that was kind of on your bucket list?
I want to go to California. I really enjoy them. Go to Florida every winter, but California and Paradise Island. Is it Bahamas or Barbados? I always mix up the two. I think Bahamas.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, forget the big resort there. Anyway, that's on my bucket list.
Yeah, I'm more easygoing. As long as there's sunshine. Yeah, somewhere warm where I
Do you guys
can-
go to Florida, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we go every year with the kids. So
Yeah.
it's kind of.
We bought buildings from Florida, actually.
It's funny. That's where we get really rejuvenated, and we'll go there, and we'll be by the pool, and but that's when we're able to really relax and brainstorm and have some awesome ideas. And every time we go on a trip, you almost get a return on investment way of speaking, because we when we come back, our business goes from here to here every single time. Yeah.
Oh, that's great to hear. Okay, so in one more question, just because I think it is important. You guys are in such a good cash flow market. What would you recommend to somebody who might not be in that type of market as to what you think their best strategy is to create wealth, if they want to free themselves and not be in their day
honestly,
day-to-day job?
and I'm sure you'll have something to say, but I'll go first. I'd probably say get comfortable with the idea of going in different markets. And I mean, Dave and I are doing that as well, right? So we love North Bay. We're investing in North Bay, absolutely, but we're also looking across Canada and the United States. So get to know different markets, get to know where you may want to invest, and find out strategies on how to do that. There's lots of podcasts and books on there that, at the end of the day, if you can still pay somebody else to manage your property and you do your research, make sure you get the right company, and you're still cash flowing and you're really not doing anything because you're not the one doing the property management and repairs.
It's truly passive.
Yeah, exactly.
You can make it a heck of a lot more passive. Yeah, it's going to cost you a bit, but it buys back your time.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I'm surprised, when we, in our group, so we have different group for our mentorees, and I thought there would be a lot of, people saying, no, I don't, I have to be hands-on. I want to see everything. But I find more and more people are okay with the idea of
90% are okay with going
outside of their market. And I think it's because it's not like the old days, right? Like everything, you can see everything. You can ask somebody to take a video and send it to you, right? So you can be live from a distance. So
It's true. There is a way to make it work. Like I do manage properties from an hour and a half away. It is doable. Yeah. Although, I mean, I've had anxiety about that a few times, but there are systems you can create to make it work.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for taking the time and driving down here. I know you had other business down here too, but I know you were rushing to get here. So I hope you didn't take any risks on the road.
absolutely not.
Absolutely not anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks again for coming on, and I'll definitely look forward to hearing an update as you guys inch towards 1,000 units.
Yes,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Well,
Awesome.
we have to do it in the next 4 years. We set it up.
4 years. All right. Okay.
We're on track. So
All right. Well, then keep me posted. Everybody, make sure you're following them on Instagram, Facebook, so that you can see the progress.
okay,
Awesome.
awesome.
Thanks,
Thank
Andrew.
you for having us.
Thanks for listening and watching today's episode. Quick reminder, please take a moment to rate and review this podcast on iTunes. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you smash the like and subscribe buttons and the notification bell. And feel free to post a comment below. And while you're at it, why not share this episode with somebody you think it could help? I'd really appreciate it, and it's going to help grow our community around this podcast. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you on the next one.